Yeah. You're muted. You're muted. Okay. I'm trying to open up my own stream. No, I haven't opened it up. Ma'am. What? I'm live? What are you talking about? Both. I don't know. How, I see that one. Should I turn off the pronouns? Where is it? That's crazy. I wonder I can't see my messages. Why can't I get it to pop up? What? That'll work. See, I don't know why it's not working. It was working earlier. Mm. Oh wait, I could go on my phone and test it out, I think. Why is it not working? Yeah. When you click on that. Oh, I have to turn that on. Where's your arc light hierarchical? I'm trying to test multi-stream, but the chat isn't popping up. I worked on my test stream. Huh? Oh. I think this one's okay. This one's like a really good weapon. Oh, what was that? Oh, you want me to tell him? Arco, Peter started playing Apex. Well, you can type in the chat, but okay. This is annoying. I don't know why it's not popping up. I'm gonna pick up Chaos Turns because it's trash to me. I have 3K in here. So I have a lot of money. I was trying to do multi-chat, shared chat. But it's not working. I don't know what to do. Let me try signing out again. Oh, does this fix it? Let's see. Test. Well, now it works. Dude, it didn't even sign me in. That's why it wasn't working. Hey, it shows it now. 2 different chats. Sorry, I did one 2 days ago.
Is right around the corner, and we have a ton of info regarding the upcoming beta, like how to get access, a new map that's coming out, a new ranked elo system, and much more. Not only are we getting a new map, we also have screenshots of what the remastered version of town is going to look like. We learned almost all of this info from the Mustang Soft Guns Discord developer Q&A. I'll go through every single question and summarize it without their swap, but I'll also put Mustang Soft's official response up on the screen so you can read exactly what they said if you'd like. And let's get it. Okay, first and foremost, and why you probably clicked on this video, question: when will the game be released? Will there be beta play? Kinda sus way to word that, but okay. Anyways,
Ooh, a dark totem.
the goal is to launch the beta in August 2025. That's only a week after I'm recording this video, so we could legitimately be 7 sleeps away from the guns beta. Given we haven't gotten any info since this Q&A came out, it's probably not going to be August 1st, but a girl can dream. Although they don't specify it in the answer, this will be a closed beta that will require a beta key, and later on in the Q&A we'll discuss how to get a beta key. Moving on. Question 2, is there any new content that's different from the original guns? They mentioned a few things we already knew, like no pay to win, cosmetic-driven monetization, graphical updates to the map and UI, but they also mentioned a reworking of how the quest mode works. I guess the future will tell how far they go with that, but that's pretty exciting. Ultimately, they want to keep the same core mechanics the same, which I think means just under the hood the game will be exactly the same. The third question is about field of view options, and the long story short is that they're working on it and plan on having ultra-wide support and a field of view slider so that you can manually adjust adjust it like we see on private servers today. Moving on, the fourth question, which is a good one. Have you considered an elo system instead of the previous leveling system and channel divisions? I'll just read their actual answer here because it's short and sweet. Channels will be unified and the elo system will be used for
Just RuneScape.
This will help create an environment
I was
where
trying to
players
test
can compete against others
multi-streaming.
with a similar skill level. Okay, so first thought, this sounds
Oh,
great. on
yeah,
the
I was trying to
surface.
see if I
There's
could
just a
stream on
few
2
potential
platforms
issues.
at once.
I hope they build the
and have a
system's
shared
formulas
chat.
well, and they have a way to judge a player's impact outside of the typical win, loss, and damage. Outside of
Yeah,
that
so my
concern, though,
chat
there's a
showed
very
both
real
chats.
possibility that once this release is all said and done, that the game appears to a smaller niche audience, and the smaller the population, the worse off we'd be with an EVO-only matchmaking system. I think Guns would lose some of its previous
Me
magic.
too.
Regardless, I think this is a good step forward, and we just
I'm
have
not
to hope
risking
for the best
TikTok.
case implementation.
I heard of some
It would
people
definitely be a little
multi-streaming
sad that I won't get to
TikTok and
reclimb from
Twitch
entry
and
channel all the way up through extra channel or whatever, but I'll live. Next question, is an engine
They
upgrade
could be
being
like
considered?
temporary
Basically, they say no because they want the game to feel exactly the same as it used to, which is a great answer, and they get that the jank accidental mechanics are the reason that we're all here and hyped up to play. Next up, do you have any plans for creator collaborations or esports support? Missangsoft states that they both have already been recruiting creators, as you already know based on my previous videos, and the Discord has a creator role and everything, but also that they'll be hosting official tournaments and that they'll be supporting creators with tournament prizes, but also by promoting them. Not sure what they mean by supporting us with tournament prizes, but what I can tell you is that they already have a creator program, and they plan to have an even higher tier creator role that collaborates with the development team a little more closely. Pretty cool that they're already planning on having tournaments. I just hope that they recapture that like Clan War qualifying period type situation from the last time we had an official gun server, but I have a
Well, they
feeling
have a
they'll want to
Discord
tie
now?
to
Oh,
the
shoot, my
ranking
thing
and
right
Evo
now.
system that they built. Okay, moving on. What will be done to make sure that the game
No,
stays
the
cheat-free? Short
game that used to
answer,
play
basically they
Guns,
plan on
it has,
implementing Easy Anti-Cheat, which is like a popular anti-cheat software that
it
you
has
see
its
in
own
games
Discord server
nowadays,
now.
but it doesn't seem to be super loved by anyone. And they'll also be dealing with replay reporting and stats-based analysis, whatever that means. Okay, and the next question, I'm going to do a lot of summarization here, but basically the question is, what does remaster mean to the development team? As I feel like they've already said a million times now, they're not going to change the core gameplay while modernizing the game with quality of life, graphical, and UI improvements. Next question, what is the long-term roadmap for the game? The development team plans on having the full release of the game out by the end of 2025. Quick and easy, and I hope they can actually deliver on that. It's almost been a year since we found out that the game was coming back, which is crazy. Will anti-lead be toggleable for Gladiator? Basically, yes. They did the survey and concluded that the game should have anti-lead as a toggleable option, so that's awesome that they listened to the community and are actually doing what we asked for. Bonus nugget in this answer is that they plan on having much more room customization options, so it sounds like we wouldn't be forced to use their new ELO system for matchmaking and you could still create custom lobbies. Will there be a ranked 1v1 mode? The developers seem to think the less players in a match, the more room for abuse, and while that sounds fair enough on the surface, a lot of games have 1v1 ranked modes with random matchmaking, and I wouldn't say it's a shit show or anything. I'd imagine this would be really fixable, especially if we have a decent online player count. However, at least they did say they plan on hosting a 1v1 tournament since they don't want to have a 1v1 ranked mode. Moving on, will there be an in-game reporting system? They're working on a replay reporting feature and considering an in-game report option as well. In my opinion, they should definitely do this, as people often be too lazy to go out of their way to report someone if there's too many steps. I know I sure can be. Okay, here's a big one you guys are definitely going to be interested in. How are they going to distribute the beta keys? Basically, they list 3 potential options, and I wouldn't be shocked if they do all 3 of them. 1, they'll release them through their creators, so there's a chance I'll be able to give some keys away to you guys, and I definitely will let you know as soon as I know something. 2, through events in the official Discord, which you can join on their website in the description of this video. While you're down there, would you mind clicking the like, comment, subscribe, sharing the video, and all that fun shit so people can learn more about guns? Appreciate you. And 3rd, through their newsletter, which you can also sign up for on their website. I'm sure we'll be learning something shortly, as their goal of August is literally right around the corner. Okay, final question before we get to a brand new map teaser. Do you think modern UI trends fit with the aesthetic of guns, or do you think it would be better to keep the original style while improving it with sharper or cleaner graphics? Summarized, the devs said they'll basically be taking feedback on their new UI, however that you'll be able to toggle it over to the classic UI, which is fantastic news. I think one of the biggest things we've learned from this entire QA is that the developers understand the importance of option toggles and not just locking players into one specific way to play. The more customization within the user's client, the better. Alright, that's every question from the Missangsoft Q&A where we learned about the upcoming beta, which could literally just be within the next few weeks if they stick to their plan, and we'll be able to get some real guns content out there. I can't wait. Before we end this off, I'm going to show you guys the new map that Missangsoft teased, as well as the remastered version of the map Town. I'll begin with the new map. Not sure what they're going to name this, but we have like a warehouse with some missiles on the ground, and overall the map is pretty open. The developers actually actually shared one more exclusive screenshot with us creators that shows like you can actually travel up vertically on the map as well and see down through the grating like you can on the original map station. Not gonna lie, when I first saw this, I thought this was a dual map because it feels like pretty open like Hall and some of the other dual maps, but when I saw the perspective from on top, I don't think that's necessarily true anymore. I think it's gonna feel pretty open to play in, except
Oh,
for
that's
in the
so
outskirts,
cool. They have a
and I'd imagine
Discord
it'll play
now.
really similar to
It's like
Battle
I'm
Arena,
actually
but
gonna
maybe
come
with a bit
out.
more cover. I can't wait to try it out. Alright, we also have 6 new screenshots of the remastered graphics on town, so I'll cycle through these. Not gonna lie, my nostalgia bone is crying a little bit. There's definitely the boomer inside me that wants the maps to stay the same, but I fully understand this is to attract new players so the game looks a little bit less like it's 20 years old. Plus, I'll most likely be using clean maps anyways unless character models really pop on the new maps. So yeah, overall I do actually think the new textures look really nice, but a bit of my childhood definitely died seeing this. Once again, not sure if any of these armor sets they're showing off in the screenshots are new, but I do actually think they look really nice and fit the aesthetic of Guns. And I think the new map remasters we've seen so far still fit the aesthetic as well. Guns actually has such a cool and unique vibe to it. I'm glad they're staying true to that. Alright, that's pretty much all of the news that I've missed out on in the last couple of months. If you watched this far, you probably already know this, but I made a 3
Guns is a super old game, so it actually had a server selector where anybody could create a game and anyone could join said game because the game utilized peer-to-peer connections and didn't need dedicated servers for each
Super light.
individual match.
Every item in the game has an associated weight, and your character could only carry up to 100 weight, and this was used as kind of like a balancing tool. For example, rocket launchers were one of the heaviest weapons in the game, so if you wanted to equip 2 rocket launchers, you would pretty much be able to equip nothing else, and you would have terrible stats, because like, how are you gonna fit those 2 rockets in your pocket, dude? Guns also featured some RPG aspects, like a gear unlocking system tied to leveling by killing other players online, gaining you advantage over lower level players along the way. When you killed a player, you'd gain experience and bounty, and that would further along your account. Some gear was locked behind levels, meaning you'd have to gain both to progress. Guns also featured some lore aspects to it, however, no story was ever formally really established on the game. For example, when you make your first character, your character will have a choice of weapons, and they have names pertaining to the lore, such as Axiom Gun Knight or Travius Scout, and well, as you can see here in this image, a few others. While this didn't do anything outside of literally starting your character with a different weapon type, the developers were clearly intending on these words meaning something in the game eventually, I'd imagine. The small tidbit of lore from the website back in 2005, which you can see here, is more or less just an excuse for why you're a cool Matrix guy fighting other cool Matrix guys. It definitely wasn't the focus of the game. If you happen to be one of the few players who was around during this 2004 K-Guns era, likely living in Korea yourself, and you'd know where to start looking to try and find some of this lost media, I bet the entire community would love that. I did attempt to visit the old Korean Guns Netmarble site using archive.org, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to work on that site in the 2004 and 2005 range, so it's very hard to gather information, even when I put in some effort. I've noticed a trend where I see a lot of cloud chasers nowadays claiming to have been playing since 2003 or 2004, but unless they were Korean Guns players at that time, and in the 2003 case, maybe they were alpha testers? I have no idea, but what I do know is an oddly high amount of players use these dates as their start dates, but they're either lying or mistaken. You can see here from Mayet's old website, they developed it in 2003 and released it in Korea in 2004. I digress. Due to there being so little information I could track down about the beta and the launch of Korean Guns, this era of Guns history will undoubtedly be the shortest because the amount of information I was able to gather once the game was localized in English will honestly shock you. Knowing where to look is half the battle, and thankfully I've been insanely involved in this
Marco,
game
what have you
starting
been up
with the
to?
summer of 2005. With that said, I'll see you guys there. On June 4th, 2005, my life would forever be changed, and International Guns was officially born. The developers of Guns, Mayet, would release the download link on their website, gunsonline.com, for the first time and add this open beta banner.
International Guns was released to the public as a beta, and as its name suggested, finally made Guns open to the entire world to get their hands on. I personally didn't know about Guns on this exact release day, but I would begin playing Guns at some point in the summer of 2005 through real-life word of mouth. There weren't a lot of quality free-to-play games at this point on the internet, and Guns, frankly, even on the surface, looked like a pretty cool game for that era. Being that International Guns was just a beta, it was lacking quite a few of the features that Korean Guns had already had, as well as many items. Because of this, I'm going to tell you everything that was released at this point just to start forming a timeline of when things were added to the game. Once I'm able to establish what was released as the base game, it'll more accurately paint a picture of all the progression the devs made throughout the life of the game going forward. I think a fun place to start would be that there were no hats in International Guns. While International Guns shared an identical UI to Korean Guns, just translated to English, it was lacking many of the armor sets, including all of them with hats. So players could see the hat slot in the inventory, it was just useless. There was nothing to actually equip there. While I don't think it's worth highlighting every single weapon or item that was included in the game upon release, I'll give you some of the iconic stuff here. Keep in mind, I'm using a private server called FXB Guns to show off most of my B-roll for this entire video, so a lot of things won't be perfectly accurate to how they were 20 years ago. Katanas and Kodachis always stood out to me as having very cool designs, with them looking cooler and cooler as you level up. The level 30, 40, and 50 katanas I feel like were all iconic, and you'll still see people choosing, especially the level 50 katana, the Golden Dragon Sword, or as it was called in International Guns, the Yongwol Rang, to this day. It would have its name localized in English a few years later. The golden shotguns were definitely iconic as well. The Breaker 7 unlocked at level 30, and the Breaker 8 unlocked at level 45. At level 50, with your Golden Dragon Sword and golden shotguns, you felt like you were on top of the world. The last iconic item that I want to mention that I feel like a lot of people really look forward to unlocking in iGuns was the level 21 Yoriki Longcoat. That thing was a staple. I think honestly everyone liked it so much because it was one of the very few animated items in the game.
As time went on and everyone got more tryhardy about this game, long flowing coats definitely became less popular as it didn't make your hitbox bigger, although that was a rumor for a while, but at the very least it does make you a bigger target and easier to see.
I remember constantly being in conflict, trying to decide what I wanted to buy from the shop next, as bounty was kind of hard to come by, especially if you were new to the game and wanting to try out a lot of different things. While I didn't want to share every single item in the item shop, I will share with you every single map that was released with International Guns, as not many more maps were added over the years, and a lot of these are still staple maps that people love to play on to this day. There's also a fun few little Easter eggs about some of these maps that you may have not known that I'll let you know about. iGuns released with 13 maps. Going in alphabetical order, first we have Battle Arena. This was a pretty commonly played map for death matches and eventually competitive play, but really wasn't played too much back in this 2005 era. The coolest thing about Battle Arena, and this is going to be a theme with the developers of Guns, Mayet, is that it is a straight up rip-off from the movie Gladiator. I'll show you a side-by-side of the Gladiator Coliseum and the map Battle Arena right now. There's no denying it. Next is Castle, and this map is unique because it was one of the maps that the game locked behind a level requirement. Let's talk about level requirement maps really quickly. Guns is old. As you know, we're talking about 2005 right now. There was no skill-based matchmaking, not only in Guns at this point, but really in games in general. Most games used a lobby system, and Guns was no different. However, to circumvent completely new players getting absolutely crushed by players who were higher level and more experienced, they used the game's RPG elements to create certain channels. The level groups were separated, as you can see on screen here, but basically, Veteran Channel, which was unlocked at level 11, would unlock you 2 maps, Port and Ruin. Expert Channel, at level 21, unlocked access to 2 more maps, Castle and Dungeon. Unlike the previous channels, you could stay in Expert Channel all the way up to level 99. There was no max level for this channel. And lastly, Elite Channel gave you, nothing. They did end up adding 2 Elite Channel maps, making 2 per channel past level 11, but that wouldn't come for a few years. We'll get there. Anyhow, Castle was an iconic map in Guns. Castle was definitely the most popular map for playing deathmatches or Berserker post level 21. Castle was also popular because it featured a large open area with 2 bridges and Oblivion below, and a few walls to post off of that made for a great spot to get into some air duels once players were starting to learn animation cancels and could suspend themselves in air consistently and not kill themselves. By the way, fun fact, back in International Guns, Oblivion was actually called Hell, so when you died it would say you've fallen into Hell, but this was later changed to say you've fallen into Oblivion. The next map is Dungeon, and this was the other map besides Castle that you'd unlock at level 21. This map wasn't very popular. In fact, it's more known for being a quest map in the future, and one of the worst Clan War maps once that was released.
Another not so great thing that Dungeon was known for was that a lot of the walls in this map seemingly were left uncoded, meaning when you try to wall cancel or interact with them in any way, you just fall down into oblivion and die. My boy Tony calls this butter walls. A few maps have butter walls and guns, but Dungeon is the worst.
This is the second map that is clearly stolen media. As you can see here, I'll compare on screen again. The dungeon pillar area is identical from the scene from Lord of the Rings. From the little pattern on the base of the pillars to the shape of the door entrances, it's super obvious. Factory is next, and this map is great. I bet a lot of people won't remember this, but you could actually only do 8-man death matches at Factory back on the official servers. This map was too small to allow for 16 players, but honestly, they should have just let us do it. This is one of the most loved team deathmatch maps, as there's basically no camping spots whatsoever. Next is Garden, and speaking of TDM maps, this has to be one of the most popular ever. Garden has a large outside area and a tunnel system underneath, allowing for multiple styles of play.
From the very beginning, there was always speculation that Garden was simply the outside courtyard area of Mansion, as if like the two maps were connected. Although you obviously couldn't travel between the two maps, they just look so similar with the architecture and all.
Some players would camp the tunnels and use that noob flip slash mechanic under the low roof, where you couldn't recover and would get instantly killed. Not me, by the way. I would never. And good players who could actually aim to kill people would play outside
Almost
and
done
slowly
with
get
my
ruined by the
Slayer
noobs being
tabs.
patient underground. Super popular map. Anyway, moving on. iGuns also had Island on release. Island was actually the first map I ever played on, and I think it was a great introduction to the game, honestly. Seeing players getting flipped off the middle area into hell and dying, like, made me realize that I could just noob people with a sword, and I honestly think this might have been what started my addiction. I can still remember the first time I got that blue text in the chat box on this map, dude. What a dopamine rush. This map definitely wasn't popular for competitive play. Even though it was in the Claymore map rotation for the long haul, it was just a very campy and potshot heavy map. Moving on, the next map was possibly the most iconic map in all of Guns. Mansion is likely the first map you ever played on, especially if you just started up your own lobby, as it was the default map whenever you created a room. I'm not sure why, but I like to think it's just because the developers liked it the most. This was the deathmatch map up until you reach level 21 and could start playing on Castle. Not only was it the second biggest deathmatch map, it was also very popular in team deathmatch as well, because the community created a game mode called Attack and Defense. Essentially, this map is very symmetrical, with a base on either side and a large open area with 3 floors in the middle and this big scary devil guy. The community decided that this map would be perfect to take turns camping on and call it Attack and Defend. So basically, one team attacks, meaning they can actually leave their base, and the other team defends, and they are not allowed to leave their base beyond this point. This seriously was around from like the very beginning of Guns until the end of the official servers, and I wouldn't be shocked if there's an Attack and Defense game going right now for Nostalgia Silver on a private server. Mansion, however, is stolen media, just like those other two maps. It's a clear ripoff from the Mansion in the first mission of Devil May Cry 1. Regardless, Mansion definitely in the top 2 most iconic maps for Guns. Next is another level locked map, being Port. Port is unlocked at level 11, but was in the competitive rotation from the start to finish, and is overall considered a pretty well-liked map. Rarely, especially in the early days of Guns, you might see a deathmatch on this map, but it was largely just played in Claymores. It has 2 areas, an open outdoor garden area and a more confined like streets part of the map. Typically, players played on the streets, but every so often a clan strategy might take them outside. All in all, Port was pretty good. Up next is the only Guns map to ever have a second version of itself, that being Prison and Prison 2. Prison wasn't very popular, but I feel like you might see a deathmatch on this map every so often in the early days, and that was alright. This is the last of the stolen media maps, so out of the initial 13 maps that released, 5 of them contain stolen media. Take of that what you will. Prison and Prison 2, for that matter, have an area of the map called the Shower Room, and it's clearly taken from the scene in the movie The Rock. I mean, this is so wild. Can they legally do this? I mean, it's cool, but damn, this was a weird little rabbit hole to find, because before my research, I only knew about the Battle Arena ripoff from Gladiator. Prison 2 was actually a Claymore rotation map, and it was genuinely despised by the community. One team always camped here, and it was super sword heavy due to the tight spaces, and just, yeah, no one liked it. I just showed off Prison with Prison B-roll because Prison 2 is just a smaller version of Prison. Okay, I'm almost done with maps, I promise. The next map is Ruin. This is the other map you'd unlock at level 11 along with Port, and it has to be one of the least played maps in Guns. It wasn't in the competitive rotation, and the community just never really liked it. It's a huge map, but the spawn doors were so tiny that people would stand in these doorways to troll and block their own teammates in here. Good times. The next map was also barely played, and that's Station. This map also wasn't in the Clan War rotation, players rarely chose it, and yeah. It's nearly a perfectly symmetrical train station with a billion boxes to pot shot and run behind, and all the entrances just feel small and claustrophobic. One of my least favorite maps for sure. The final map though, and possibly the best map in Guns history, is Town. This map isn't exactly symmetrical, has a long back alley flank route, has 2 lanes to fight in the middle, good cover with the clock tower and car placements. I mean, they just really nailed it with Town. Town, even from the start of iGuns, was super popular and has always been the most popular map for team deathmatch, clan wars, 1v1s, you name it. Town always had this glitch, and it even works to this day, where you can see through this wall as if you had like wall hacks or something if you just stand in this corner correctly. The only annoying thing about Town is in the back alley especially, there's a lot of little nooks and crannies, and if someone was low and wanted to wait out time to draw or win the round, they'd often be able to hide around and make that happen. So yeah, there you have it, all 13 launch maps for Guns. Now that we're done with all the maps, you'll notice that any B-roll footage that I use from this time period of players actually playing, it's exclusively played on Town, as the competitive community, which is the only replays we really have left, would exclusively only play there for the most part in this era.
I feel like we covered all of the core systems of the game with the shop, bounty, level up system, maps, and all we're really missing on release now is the game modes that the game released with. Many of the game modes that would come to make Guns iconic, such as Clan Wars or Quest Mode, were not actually present during the years of 2005 and 2006 when iGuns was active. Here's the game modes that were in the game during this time. Deathmatch, Berserker, Team Deathmatch, Gladiator, Team Gladiator, Assassination, and Training. Deathmatch is self-explanatory. Berserker is just a deathmatch, but the first player to get a kill at the start of the game gets in Berserker mode, which gives them double damage, but they also slowly lose health over time. When the Berserker kills another player, they regain some health, so overall it's a pretty huge buff. For whatever reason, Berserker as a game type was actually locked behind levels. You can only play it from Veteran Channel onward. This would be the only game type to ever be unlocked behind levels. Once you reach
you think the arc light would be doing more damage than this?
I do feel like it was more popular than Deathmatch for casual play or grinding levels. Team Deathmatch is also pretty self-explanatory, and Guns Team Deathmatch, when you die, you don't respawn until your entire team is dead, and when you eliminate the entire enemy team, you get a point. First to a certain number of points wins. Gladiator is the swords-only version of Guns, which would go on to gather its entire own community within Guns. From the start, there was a section of players who absolutely adored the sword play in this game, and for good reason. Team Gladiator is just like TDM, but swords only. Assassination is basically VIP from other games. One player gets chosen at random on the team, signified by a glow around their character to be the VIP, and if your team's VIP is killed, you lose the round. This game type was rarely ever played, but it was a nice change of pace in the early days when there wasn't a ton of content to do anyway. The final game type, Training, is just a deathmatch, except you won't gain XP if you die, and you won't lose XP if you suicide. Keep in mind, International Guns, while it was active and running for about a year and a half, basically got 0 content updates. So everything I just named as far as items, maps, game types, that was it. That was all the players had for the entire duration of iGuns. iGuns did launch with a fully functional replay system, which I'm grateful for because we still have some media from that time period thanks to the YouTube channel Guns Memories. iGuns did have a clan system as well, but at this point it was literally only for a sense of community as there was no clan war mode or any associated ranking system. Clans did, however, begin to create their own clan wars by creating private lobbies and scrimming against each other. Clan vs clan in a team deathmatch, typically a best of 20, but occasionally.
Hello everyone, Chaos here, and welcome to another old-school RuneScape video. The final part of the Valimor Saga was released yesterday, thanks to the Final Dawn, and it brought with it new challenges, monsters, skilling methods, moneymakers, AFK activities, all of which we tested on stream. After playing it for a full day, I can confidently say that it's probably tied with the first part of Valimor in terms of hype, and today I'm here to tell you everything you can do in the new areas around the map. Boys and girls, I'll be making in-depth videos about most of the topics we talk about today, so remember to subscribe with notifications on, drop a fat like for our YouTube overlords, and you can join our Discord server with the link in the description to play with me and our amazing community. As you can see from the title, this video will serve as a little recap of everything you can do in the third part of Valimor, as I have done with the previous expansions. I will give you a quick rundown of every topic and then tell you how we are going to cover it in greater detail in some upcoming guides. This in case you haven't been able to play and you want to jump straight into the action. So Scapers, grab your favorite drink and snack, and let's begin. We are going to start with quests because these are just a one-time thing and not repeatable activities like we have later down in the list. The very first one is the Final Dawn, and this one has a really cool plot twist if you have been following all the lore from the first and the second expansions. One thing that we need to note, we need to mention about this is that if you remember, Jagex was advertising the main reward from this quest, a new weapon, which was either rivaling the Dragon Scimitar or was going to be like a side grade, like another weapon that you can potentially aim for either a mid or a late game account. The problem with this is that there's a lot of requirements for this new quest, and actually the road in order to get to the Final Dawn is a lot tougher than getting to Monkey Madness 1 on a fresh account. On my hardcore, when I did it, I believe I only needed to get 43 prayer for protection, a few combat levels in order to survive some of the things that I need to battle in Ape Atoll, and it doesn't really take too long. However, if you want to go to the Final Dawn, you want to complete this quest on a brand new account, it's going to take a little bit longer.
Oh, your sense will change.
But the skill requirements themselves,
the
skills, are going to take much longer. I don't really think this is going to be a great alternative because it's going to take, it's going to be a little more tedious to get. However, the item is really cool. It has a good stats, a good special attack. You can potentially
I think Clara has that issue for CS:GO.
It is going to be rushing to get the new item as opposed to the Dragon Scimitar we all know and love. Up next, we have the Shadow of Custodia. This is a
it also crashes your PC,
and it gives you access to the new dungeon where you can find the Custodia Stalkers, more about those later, in which they come in juvenile, mature, and elder forms. You can find them in single, multiple areas, a Slayer task. It looks to be a pretty decent, not great moneymaker, but it's nice, and the uniques are going to be pretty cool, but like I said, more about those later. We have a mini quest by the name Veil Totems, and this is just like the Sleeping Giants quest that basically shows you the ropes when it comes to the Giants Foundry. This mini quest is going to tell you everything you need to know about the new fletching activity, the new minigame, but it is not going to give you the entire rundown of how you can maximize it. It's just going to give you the basics, and that is exactly what my guide of this upcoming Monday is going to be all about, and I'm pretty excited for that one. So just do this one, you're gonna learn how to do the activity itself, and you're gonna be good to go. The last one is a for-fun quest called Scrambled, and this one, it basically has the same vibes as the Frog quest from Valimor Part 2. It's really fun. There's one part that got a little frustrating, but the dialogue in it is really nice, and it has some pretty interesting plot twist that I heavily recommend you guys do this one, but maybe put it down in the priority list because this doesn't give you anything special. It's just for fun, and I'm really happy that Jagex is, has the freedom to do these because they definitely need to do more of these in the future in order, or I would say to complement the bigger releases. That's it for the quests. If you do all of them, I don't think it's going to take you longer than 3 hours to complete them, and if you follow a quick guide on the wiki, it is going to be even faster. When you finish or partially complete the Final Dawn quest, this is going to give you access to a new area by the name Tonali Cavern. The main monster to fight here are Earthling Naguas, which, like we said in previous videos, are going to drop a new weapon by the name Earthbound Tecpatl. This is basically the stab version of the Sulfur Blades and I would say it's the Glacial Tumulti, I forgot the name for a second. And the interesting part about these Naguas is they have a brand new mechanic where you fight them, but as soon as they hit 60% HP, their defense stats are going to shift and they're going to be weak to crush because they will have an earthling shield around them. At first, they are weak to, I believe it is stab, of course, since you can use the new weapon on them, and then they are going to be weak to crush when they fall below 60% HP. This is something I believe we have never seen in any monster in Old School RuneScape, and it's pretty cool that they started experimenting on something that's maybe not as important as an Earthen Nagua. Up next, we have a brand new quote-unquote group boss, and I say it like that because I personally wouldn't even consider it a boss, nor do I even think it's on the high scores, and that is the Gemstone Crab. From the moment Jagex started advertising this as an AFK group melee activity, I was really curious how they were going to handle it, especially when it comes to damage. I was surprised the Gemstone Crab can hit 1s and 0s, and that is about it. I didn't really pay much attention because this is supposed to be an AFK activity, and I was only talking to chat when we were doing this, but I think the crab can only target one person, and it's mostly going to hit 0s, so even if you're a low to mid-level hardcore, you may potentially not get a ton of experience, but I also don't think you're going to die if you leave your character up to 10 minutes at this AFK place. And speaking of AFK in 10 minutes, this is something that if you do it at the bare minimum efficiency, you only need 2 clicks every 10 minutes. You need to click on the crab, and when it falls to 0 HP, it's going to go to another location, and you need to click on the
I'm
cavern.
on 3 different
That's going to take you
ones.
to the next
Streaming on
spot where
3.
it is going to be at. If you want to be a little more efficient, you're going to bring your super combat
Yeah, let's
potions,
go
prayer
TikTok
potions
now.
if you want,
Let's
your
get it.
piety, prayer, or chivalry even if you haven't. And you can also train ranged with this one. It's not really only for melee. And if you want to do it minimum efficiency, this is one of the best activities that
say
you can
soup?
do. And at quote-unquote maximum efficiency, I was doing it with Full Torva, Soul Reaper Axe,
heck
Super
no.
Common Potions, Piety. I was getting upwards of 170,000 experience per hour, and something I will definitely do when I need more combat experience if I want to go for total levels. Whenever the crab dies, the top 16 players that deal damage are going to be able to mine some gems. This is not going to be a great moneymaker, but it's just a little token that you will receive for your efforts. And like I said during the questing segment, we have a brand new Slayer creature by the name Custodia Stalkers, which you can kill at the Custodia Pass after completion of its respective quest. The interesting part about it is that it's one Slayer creature, but in 3 different tiers. You have Juvenile, Mature, and Elder. All of them are able to drop an item called Antler Guard, which you break down into Athletical Dart tips in order to make into Athletical Darts, with another item that we get from the fletching activity. The Mature and the Elder one are able to drop the Antler Guard, which is an offhand weapon. For all 3 combat styles, it has really good offensive stats, but it has terrible defensive stats, which is aimed for pures, and I believe it only has a 50 prayer requirement in case you want to go ahead and use it. The Alchemist's Signet is an item that can only be dropped by the Elder Custodia Stalker, and this is something that you trade in at the Mastering Mixology basement in order to get some herblore supplies. And this is going to be great for Ironman looking for items in order to use after the Mastering Mixology activity. It is yet to be seen how many of these or like how much money you can make with these, or if prices are going to drop for it. But as an Iron, of course, you don't really care about that. The other interesting part about this place is that there's single and the multi-combat areas. I was able to try both of them, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty decent Slayer assignment. So if you, again, like previously, if you don't want to do these, then don't do the quest because you're not going to be able to do them, and the Slayer Masters are not going to be able to assign it. The runner-up spot is the new fletching activity by the name Auburnvale Valley, and I was super excited about this one. I remember it having a 50 fletching requirement, however, I believe that was lowered to 20 in order to start working with oak logs and things you can make out of those oak logs. Like I said before, if you did the tutorial, the Veiled Totem mini quest, you will know how to do this, I would say the basics of it, but you don't really get to see how to do it efficiently 100%. And that is what my video coming up on Monday is going to be about, where I'm going to show you how to make it super efficient, maximum experience per hour, the bare minimum with my hardcore that has only level 55 fletching. So I'll be able to show you both the minimum and the maximum in case you're more excited about, getting the most out of this activity. I would say summary of this one is that you want to open the map and look for an icon that's called a Veiled Totem, and you want to find a route that is efficient for you, which I will also go in depth on my next guide. In order to visit all of the totem places, make a totem, carve all the animals that you see represented around by the time you are there, and then decorate it with whatever you have in your bank if you're an Iron, or whatever you want to buy as an unrestricted account. The interesting part about this is that after you do a full cycle and then you come back to the first one, the ends around the area are going to leave offerings behind, and these are basically like little plants that you have in your inventory. It's a stackable item, which I didn't know about it until I clicked on it. And apparently you get your rewards from clicking on the plants themselves, and here's where you can get the fletching knife, the bowstring spool, and the more things in order to help you with money making, maybe resources for your Iron if you play that game mode, and it is really good. The cool part about this is that if you go super unlucky and try at the fletching knife, the bowstring spool, or anything else you might want to unlock, which are basically cosmetics I believe, you can talk to the guy that gives you the tutorial about this, you trade him, and then you are going to have research points in order to get the items themselves without having to rely on RNG. Like I said, all of this is going to be covered in my video coming up on Monday. I'm really excited for it, and I'm going to show you the maximum experience per hour and how this activity is coming to Old School RuneScape to change fletching forever for the better. And of course, the thing that people were most excited about from this update is the Doom of Mokaiotl, which I believed it was going to be called the Otso Ayak itself, but when clicking on the monster itself, it doesn't have that name, which is pretty interesting. I don't know if the Otso Ayak is something else that they named, but that's besides the point. So, in terms of difficulty, I got this question a lot. How do you compare difficulty when it comes to the Doom of Mokaiotl with the Inferno, the Colosseum? And I believe right now people are saying that it's more difficult because it's literally the first day as I'm recording this video, and content on release day is always difficult, even though later down the road it's pretty much something that you can do either without taking damage, without many supplies. If you're really good at the Inferno and the Colosseum, right now, if I go to the Inferno, I don't need to use my brews up until Zug. If I go to the Colosseum, I don't need to use my brews, if at all, or until Sol himself, or for some emergencies. The Doom of Mokaiotl does feel really challenging, but I believe when everything is optimized, when you have everything down, memorized and everything, you get the rhythm, I don't think it's going to be as bad. I would definitely place it harder than the Colosseum for now, but I don't believe is more difficult than the Inferno if you're just getting into those activities. The interesting things coming from this boss are obviously all of the new items that you get from them, the new wand, the new boots, and the upgrade to the tormented bracelets, as well as all of the non-important unique items and that super cute pet that you're going to be able to get, I believe, starting at Delve 6. Another common question that came up is, when can you start getting these items? And I believe it's as early as Wave 3, or Floor 3 rather, I'm talking about it since the Inferno or the Colosseum. And then you can start earning these uniques at Floor 3, which is really interesting, but I guess we will have to wait and see how common it is or how uncommon it is. The pet you can only get from 6 and onwards, only 6, 7, and 8. At the time of making this video, I believe the boots are going for anywhere between 800 mil to 1 billion GP, and the only reason why this is because not a lot of people are able to clear this yet. These boots are really nice, but they have no business being 1 billion GP. I believe when things stabilize, they're going to be anywhere between 200 to like 300, maybe 400 mil, but just like Oathblade, the things are going to keep going down every now and then. And then you have the wand, which I believe, as someone told me, one of our good friends on the Discord told me that it's going to be good at TOB for the Nylo room, as well as Tosani. So I am going to have to wait and see if I can get my hands on one of these, whether buying it or getting it from the Doom of Mokaiotl, in order to test them at those places. Those are the common things that I have to say about the Mokaiotl that came up in my streams, and I will have another full Mokaiotl video, like an introduction, beginner from scratch guide, in order to teach you all the mechanics, coming up next week on Thursday, and I hope to get a few clears for you fellas in order to make it as easy to understand as I like to make all my guides. So fellas, time for some closing thoughts. How does this rank in terms of the, I would say, big update of the year compared to the Tombs of Amaska, Desert Treasure 2, Wild Gothic Sleeps? It's really, really good, but the fact that there has already been so much content added to Valimor, in my personal opinion, it's very nice. Does it deserve to be called the update of the year? Probably not, but that's not to say that it's bad. It definitely has a lot of great content, but when we think about a big update of a year, I'm basically thinking either Desert Treasure 2 or the Tombs of Amaska. Those releases have set the bar so high up that anything that Jagex tries to do in the future, in my personal opinion, the only thing that could potentially surpass it is the continuation to the Majorat story after Desert Treasure 2. Anything else is really good, it's welcomed, but I don't really think it's going to be as hype as some of those releases. But everything in here, the Doom of Mokaiotl, the Auburn Valley, and all of the new things and areas and monsters that we can kill here, as well as all the items, they definitely live up to the expectations. And I cannot wait to see if sailing is going to be better in order to rival the third part of Valimor and see which one was better. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to do all the content as soon as you're able to play. Wait for the weekend, and go full degenerate in Old School RuneScape. So boys and girls, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, you learned something useful, and it got you hyped in order to start playing the third part of Valimor. If you did, tell me what your favorite piece of content from this update is and why. And if you leave the term RSN and your username in your comment, you'll be eligible for our weekly bond giveaway that I do, that we show a winner on Friday stream. I want to give a massive thank you to all the people you see on screen right now for supporting this channel with a monetary subscription, all of which goes to my family, my puppy, my wife, and a local animal shelter we help every month with food and medicine. If you like what I do here, you can consider clicking the join button or the subscribe plus button below to see all the cool benefits you can get in the videos, in the live streams, and in the Discord for a monthly fee. In the next one, like I said, on Monday, I will have an in-depth guide for the new fletching activity minigame, which is going to be followed up next week by 1 to 99 fletching guide revamped in 2025. I hope you're as excited as I am for that one, but for now, I hope you have an amazing day, have an amazing week, and I will see you then. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Peace. Hello everyone, Chaos.
My XP, you bitch. Hello. You're muted on stream. I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours.